Welcome to Tiny Texas Living. Who says you can't live big while living tiny?
This morning I woke up and I had some not so great news, and I'm not fine with this at all. Part of the reason why I continue to say that the cats are not my pets is because I can't do anything with them. And a lot of people continue to say, oh, they're your pets because you take care of them. But ultimately, it's a pretty helpless feeling not being able to pick up some of them, but also not being able to really protect them. And this morning I woke up and found out that one of the cats is no more. And I'm not okay. Not because, again, it's my pet or anything like that, but more so because I feel helpless in the situation, not being able to make sure that they are safe. And that's the whole goal of me, taking care of them, is just to make sure that they're safe, because I feel bad for any kind of animal, especially those who just kind of are living and not really having anyone there. So I've always had a really gentle heart when it comes to those things. So I've tried to get to know the cats a bit more so that I could touch them, pick them up, so possibly we could find them loving homes, because I think that ultimately they would make really good pets. I really do. But the problem is that because I live kind of out in the country, they free roam. They're feral cats. So in being a feral cat, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but one of them got pretty close to the road and ended up getting hit by a car. And this isn't the first one that's happened to, and there's nothing I can do about it. They're cats. They go where they want to go. And so it kind of struck me not so great this morning. My dad called and he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, as I was coming up to the house to go work on my van, I saw one of the cats, and well, I'm not sure which one it is. And I was just like, okay. So every day I do a head count of all the cats. And in doing so, I check it out and make sure they're good. I feed them. And I started doing this as a result of several of them getting into altercations with the dogs of the community, because there's some free roaming dogs also. And I started noticing some of them went disappearing just randomly. And so I wanted to kind of keep up to kind of know, if somebody's missing, just so that I wouldn't be walking around the yard and then find a cat, which has happened, unfortunately. I've also seen some of the dogs physically harming the cats, and that's super unsettling. It really hurts my heart to see any of those things. So that's why I've provided them a safe place with the front porch, because I just don't want to see things die. Ultimately, I just don't. And so even though they're not my pets, and even though I can't interact with them like you would a typical pet, I do feed them and I do make sure that they have a space. But again, it kind of just is okay, I can't do anything about this. And so you see the other cats and they're kind of noticing that one of them is missing. And I still don't know which cat it was, because there's 3 that look very similar. I do know that it is not Speedy, because I saw Speedy this morning, but the other 2 were not there. There's a little gray one that looks exactly like Speedy, which I was calling Comet, which had started to finally warm up a little bit more. My friend Riley is here, and so Comet and Speedy would always follow Tyson and just be like, hey, hey, hey. And then Speedy and Comet would always kind of hang out near Riley and be very kind. And so that was kind of them. But there's also another one which is a bit more elusive, named Tiny. Tiny's the one who lived in the tree because it was terrified. It's had a super rough life. It's had a couple of run-ins with the dogs, but survived. And I cannot touch Tiny at all. I cannot get near Tiny. I can't, if I try to talk to Tiny, it makes Tiny nervous. Tiny is just not super friendly, and I feel so bad for Tiny because Tiny just looks a mess. So I don't know if it's Comet or Tiny, and I won't know if it's Comet or Tiny until I do an afternoon feeding, because neither one of them came up for breakfast. Tiny usually doesn't. Tiny kind of creeps in and then hangs out just very rarely, but Comet does usually. So I'm thinking it might be Comet. Either way, not good. So I think today I'm just going to kind of take it slow and not do as much, because at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do. And it's a really, again, helpless feeling. It's not fun to see something suffer, ever. I don't wish that on anyone. I know a lot of people think, oh, you could just trap them and then you can take them to a shelter or you can get them fixed, but I can't. They won't participate in that process. So I've just been trying to do what I can to be a good person and feeding them and giving them shelter so they don't freeze and things like that. And I think as people, we could do a little bit of kindness for others more often. And even though this is just a very small section of the world and my tiny home, it's also something that is really a situation that kind of brought to my attention some of the other things just that aren't related necessarily. So not a good day at my tiny home. So I think I'm just gonna, like, again, take it slow. I'm gonna do a head count. I'm gonna see how the cats are acting. I know that the last time that one of them met their demise, they were not super thrilled. They were really sad, it seemed. They didn't do their typical behaviors. And I think that there's a lot that can be said for just observing animals sometimes. So I'm going to make sure that they feel that extra little bit of, grace today. And yeah, tiny Texas living, not always all it's cracked up to be. Some days there's days like today. And yeah, not the best.